so much for doing this, sir.
Thanks, Zach. Thanks for having me, and thanks for rescheduling.
Oh, no problem, man. So first of all, how are you doing?
Pretty good. Much better. Yeah. You know what? Just ate something on the fly, and it just did not agree with me.
It's okay, man. It happens to the best of us. Like I said, I had that last week. It's rough.
Yeah.
Just need to shut it down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how are things where you're at in Chicago with the, the current climate of the world? How's that going?
You know what? It's I can't complain personally. You know, I don't have it as hard or as difficult as other people. You know, and two, I'm not in the same situation as a lot of other people with all the upheavals and all the the virus is treating people not well, and all the social unrest. It's about time that, for me, in my opinion, it's about time that these things come up surface, because things can't change unless they are addressed and clear.
Sure.
So right now that is happening, and I know people think it's rough, but growing pains. It's all growing pains, and hopefully everyone will come out as a better person.
Absolutely. I agree. That's a great way to look at it, man. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad you're doing well.
Yeah. Thanks. How are you guys doing over there?
Pittsburgh's great, man. Yeah, we're hanging in. It's all good. Yeah. Pretty much back to open, and there's restrictions everywhere and all that stuff.
Yeah. It's for the best.
I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon. But
yeah,
here's my mask when I got to wear one.
Oh, that's flipping awesome.
So yeah, the spirit of Scorpion is with me for sure.
Yes.
Yeah,
Scorpion approves.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I know. So you're busy, man. You're Johnny Cage, you're Scorpion, you're Sub-Zero. I mean, how do you have time to do it all in one day, and then spend time with me here on this podcast? It really means a lot. So thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks.
So I could keep you here for 3 hours asking nothing about Scorpion questions. I'm not going to do that to you. I want to get to know the Master Pesina, the martial artist, a little bit before we start talking about that. So if you wouldn't mind, man, could you give me a little bit of your history in the world of martial arts?
Yeah. Martial arts for me started officially in 1969. But when I was younger, what led me is not only, later on, Bruce Lee was a big impact, but for me, growing up when I was younger, about 6 or 7 years old, on Sunday, I used to watch a TV show with my father, and it was about Charlie Chan, a detective. And this guy would it's a black and white series, and this guy would solve crimes like within an hour, figure that out. But during one episode in particular, I saw him throw this guy, judo throw this guy. So I was really like, wow, that was really cool, because he's like a short little round guy, and this guy was a big, even though he was a stunt man, it was a big guy, and he threw him and took him out. And I was like, wow. And my dad was like, my dad served in the U.S. military, and he was like, I could teach you a throw. So my dad actually taught me my first throw, though he probably wasn't proficient, because after I threw him one time and he went over and he flipped on the ground, he didn't want to do it again. I don't think I think anything he learned was far from gone.
Sure.
And but I kept bugging him over the years to take me to martial art class. And then then there was a time when Green Hornet was on TV, and that really made me up my ante and asking him for martial art lessons. So in the end, he was like, yeah, I'll take you to some.
So what was the first martial art you actually were proficient in and started to learn?
Well, still working on them. But the first art I took was judo, Shotokan judo.
Wow.
And, at the time, there was no real kids class. I had to train with the teenagers. So 13 and up, and I'm like 9 years old, and my dad takes me to this judo school to start me in these judo lessons, and he's talking to the guy, but it winds up the guy was also ex-military. So my dad was ex-military, this guy was ex-military, and they kind of were like, I don't know how it came about in the conversation, but in the end, the guy was like, yeah, let's try him out. Let's see how he does. So like I said, there was no kids classes, and actually, in the end, I stopped doing judo because one, the school closed, but two, I was 16 and I went for my black belt test and I passed my black belt test. But because I was not 18 and an official adult, they would not let me wear a black belt in class.
Whoa.
So I was awarded the black belt, but I was also awarded a brown and red belt that I would be wearing during classes, because a black belt meant more than just knowing the techniques. It's like you're responsible for things. You were able to vote. You can drive. You can make your own decisions. You could pay for your own classes. You know,
Right.
so it entitled. It was very much different than what we see now. But yeah, that was yeah. And during that too, I did a little Shotokan or Samurai Jiu-Jitsu, and two, they wouldn't let me into that class until I was 15. So they were all, yeah, because of the joint locks and things like that. So it was definitely a different time too. You know, tournaments. I attended some tournaments, but you know, for the karate tournaments, there was no like hand guards. You would wear a cup and a mouthpiece, and these guys would go at it like that. Sure, there's no hard striking to the face, but you know, these guys were still kicking and punching to the face. Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool, man. You're ahead of your time. Jiu-jitsu is so popular now. You know, I feel like when you ask most people where they start, it's usually like karate or taekwondo or whatever. But starting with judo and little jiu-jitsu, that had to lay a pretty awesome foundation for your path.
Yeah, and too, at the time at the tournaments, even though we could choke each other out in tournaments, so you couldn't apply any arm locks, but you can apply a choke in the tournaments in 1970, because I didn't do a tournament until 1970. So 1970, 71, 72, I won a couple tournaments by choking my opponent out. So, and two, you're a kid, so I'm a kid.
There you go.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So where did that go from there? I know you're a black belt in several martial arts, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah. After that, that school closed down, and in about 1974, my father, he was like, man, this keeps you out of trouble, you know, from running around, because I had two older brothers at the time, and they were much older than me. So they didn't want to hang out with their little brother, you know, so I was often, and Carlos, my youngest brother, who was Raiden, wasn't quite born yet. And then when he was born, he was still only, you know, 1 or 2 years old. So me at 8 years old, 9 years old, I didn't want to hang out with a 1-year-old, though I had to babysit plenty. So he just thought that martial arts was a good way for me to spend time, you know, have time with me and training, and it gave me good discipline. So he actually drove around in Chinatown, because my parents' home is really close to Chinatown here in Chicago, and ran into a kung fu school. And the owner of that school and teacher was Grandmaster Lin Kuei, who later on, some of Bruce Lee's students would come in flying to Chicago to take lessons from this guy. He was really notable. I think he won the 1971 Hong Kong Open, which is, if you imagine blood sport, but not so bloody, but people breaking bones. Probably, from what I hear, no fatalities, but I hear daily the tournament was, I think, 5 days, and daily somebody would break a bone on another person.
That's serious. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really serious. So he went undefeated champion of that particular tournament. So he really knew his stuff, and he impressed Dan Inosanto. So Dan Inosanto took lessons from him, and so I just happened on this guy. But before these guys came in, and I started taking kung fu from him.
Makes sense. That sounds like the only person that would train the soon-to-be Sub-Zero.
Yeah, I got lucky. He is very good, very wise, and old school. I recall the first 2 weeks, the classes were an hour and a half, and the first 2 weeks, 3 times a week I went. First 2 weeks, I just did 2 stances. I would hold one stance, and when you get tired, he'd say, switch the other stance, and go back and forth. And if you get really tired, just do it on the other side. So I did that for like just 2 weeks to just kind of show that I was able mentally to handle what was coming.
Was that his way of like testing you?
Yeah, it was kind of like to see how he would teach me. Because again, in the Chinese martial arts, not everyone learns the what they say, the secrets, not, or the whole system, the little nuances of the style that keeps it lethal. Because at one time, traditional martial arts is not, you can't put rules on it because it is for taking a life. That's what its purpose is. And that's what, everybody's like, oh, it teaches you peace and stuff like that. And actually that's kind of not true. Or you seek peace after I've had instructors who advised me later on. They're like, don't use it to harm people. And then one time I was a smart ass to one of my Bagua instructors, and I was like, yeah, but Shifu, you killed people with this. And then he turned to me and he's like, I see their faces every day of the people I took their life. He goes, they're haunting me every day. And he was already in his mid 80s.
Wow.
So he was like, so don't use it to take people's lives. You will regret it. So that is what the traditional martial arts are for. They're not for jumping in a ring or doing anything like that. Though you can do that, but you are dulling the sword. It is not being applied the way it's meant to be. So anyway, that's kind of
that's super interesting, man. Yeah, I mean, you hear the argument a lot from especially modern MMA. MMA is kind of on the rage right now in terms of popularity and everything. That like traditional martial arts have no practicality in like real world fighting or situations like that. And I pretty much know your opinion now based on that. But I did kind of what you had to say to that.
Yeah, Zach. I have a funny story. After I watched the first Ultimate Fighting Championship, the Gracie's won, and I was like, wow, that was really cool. He faked him and he shot in and he grabbed the guy's legs and he took him down and he was able to submit him. And then we were talking to my Chinese master, Goh Junhua, at the time, and we're like, me and this other guy, I forget his name, but anyway, we pointed out that this jiu-jitsu guy won everybody. And then he's like, and my master kind of looked at me strange, and he's like, won everybody. And I was like, oh, I'm going to show him what he did and catch him. So I was like, this. So we tried to explain what was going on, and I didn't want to tell him exactly how he won. How he shot in and got him, because I wanted to catch my master on surprise, and be like, oh yeah, I'm impressed with you. So I wanted to impress him, and this is what. So I fake high and go to shooting his legs, and he grabs me as I'm coming in by the jaw and the shin and starts turning my neck, and I immediately let go. And the guy next to me started laughing. And so, no, Master Go, you're not allowed to kill the guy.
Wow.
And then he looked at me. He's like, well, why do you call it ultimate martial arts? And then the other guy is like, oh, it's a term. You make money. And he's like, oh, you make money. That's really good. And he goes, but you Americans are really funny. Why would you call it ultimate?
Wow.
Because his whole thing was, if you his first move is kill you. That's his first move.
Not messing around.
Right, they are not messing around. So he was just like, and then he was talking. He goes, okay, you can't do that. He goes, but this, and then he's like, shoot in again, and then he touched my spine with his elbow, and it's just kind of, even though it was light, he knew how to hit, and boom, it kind of shocked me. And then he's like, no, you're not allowed to break the guy's spine. And then he kind of looked at me and he goes, okay, shoot in again, and he slapped me like real gentle against the ear coming in. And then he's like, no, you're not allowed to shatter a guy's eardrum. And then so he was just like, he goes, I just don't understand why you guys call it ultimate.
Yeah, he just doesn't get it.
He didn't get it, but he was like, oh, it makes money. It's awesome. That's so, cool. When we were talking about that, he's like, we really focused on like more of like a combat, like the digesting the combat. He showed me like, I was already a black belt in judo. He showed me like lethal throwing, where to get the guy where by the time you're halfway through the throw, the guy is probably dead, broke his spine or broke a joint before you even throw. So there's a really, if you look at it, the martial arts has like really deep applications, but you have to find somebody old school. You'd have to find that somebody who's like probably now 80s. The younger guys now are more sport orientated. So you'd have to find a really old guy to try to teach you the old ways.
Well, I'm not calling you old, but what about you? What's your teaching style like? I know you have a school.
Yeah, I don't. I teach the application,
Okay.
but I don't have them unless they really want to try to uh, uh, kind of gently apply it to each other. I really try to stay away from it, but I show them how lethal it could be. I show them like, oh, if the guy, if the guy throws a punch and you punch his wrist this way and shatter the wrist,
Okay.
or you shatter the wrist, punch to the elbow, break the elbow, and reach up, snatch a throat, and then pull. So
Gotcha.
it's literally 1/1000, two, and that's. But again, you have to be okay with taking somebody's life, which is a whole different philosophy too
Sure.
that they extend into.
Yeah, I like the training. I like the discipline. I feel like it's just a great way to,
Yeah,
connect with yourself, stay in shape, and it works. It's not undeniable. So that's
yeah. It's really fun. It's it always keeps me busy. I still like the that is the art side, is exploring, like refining your technique,
mhm.
maximizing your energy, being really efficient and proficient onto yourself. You can't put anybody else's standards, like because the traditional martial arts, there's so many different styles, because you're able to streamline one of those styles for yourself. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are different kinds of wheels, and you got to find the wheel that's going to fit your car.
Which one did you gravitate towards the most, if you had to say?
Well, right now I practice a lot of I for internal styles I do Bagua Zhang, Yin Fu Bagua Zhang. It's also there's two types. There's the big frame and hard palm. So I practice the hard palm, which is which as I mentioned, one of the instructors who basically did it to the combat level. That's what he preferred to do. And I also like doing the Northwestern styles, because they're difficult to do and challenging, but they are the root of internal martial arts. So before there was internal martial arts, there was these Northwestern styles, and somebody finally put it together a system in a way that came out as one of the internal styles: Xingyi, Bagua, Tai Chi.
Okay. There's so much to it. I feel like the more you know, it feels like the less you know. Like the more I
Yeah,
try to get into it, it's like, wow, there's so much that I'm, still a complete novice on, and I find it just fascinating.
yeah, it's really cool. You could
Where did
practice it forever.
Yeah, obviously it's a lifelong pursuit for you.
Yeah,
Do you still train every day and keep it
yeah,
up?
yeah. Still try to do at least a little bit every day. Once in a while, like today, I took a day off, but usually, uh, at least, well, the majority of the time, because I'm more of a hands-on instructor. Even
Mhm.
though I'm not going full tilt, I like to practice with my students.
Okay.
So, and two, most of the students I have are private. So I like to, practice with them and move around with them, or kind of go through the technique with them to kind of, so it's still kind of working out. Yeah.
That's awesome. Your private students come to your school or do you go to them?
Right now right now we either go to the school or practice in the park, because too, it's one-on-one. So it's
Yeah.
very COVID safe, everybody, especially
Sure.
with the weapons. You got to keep your distance. Somebody swinging a sword, you can't really get too close.
Yeah, that's right. You do weapons too. I forgot about that part of it.
Yeah,
For those that don't know, check out your Facebook. You're on there swinging all kinds of crazy stuff, man. It's awesome.
yeah. So yeah, so that also helps during this time.
That's so cool. When did the weapons part come into play for you with the martial arts training?
Actually, the weapons came into play uh, with my main instructor. I like to call him my main master, Gojin Hua. So really briefly, he was the type of guy where he, he enjoyed teaching, but if you worked out really hard, he would teach you a lot. And if you worked out not so hard, he would still teach you, but not so much.
Okay, cool.
And so too, later on in my years, I wanted to learn some particular things. And he was like, there was a Chinese guy coming in from, I was in America and he lives in America. And there was a guy coming in who was like a Pequot master, Axich. It's one of the Northwestern styles. It's martial art, and originally it was used with the guy with armor. So you're using the armor as your weapon besides having a weapon. It's really interesting, cool, very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. If the guy is, your conditioning is you hit a log with your arm and body, and then you put a piece of armor on it, and now your arm is already used to hitting logs. Now you got an piece of armor on it, and then you're hitting people with it. It's devastating. Yeah. It could be it's a devastating martial art. It's truly a military martial art. It's not for It's just for conquest. It's not really for, hey, we're going to keep the peace. No, don't take this martial art if you want to keep the peace, because it's just for killing, or just for taking stuff. But anyway, so this guy was really openly, I was like, he would, if people wanted to learn weapon, he would teach weapons right away. And then I was like, some of the other styles I took, you taught weapons later. And he was like, yeah, but they're so difficult that let them practice at the beginning, because in 5 or 6 years, you'll be able to teach them the good stuff. He goes, otherwise, if you start teaching them in 5 years, they got to stay with you 12, 15 years in order to learn the good stuff. He goes, this is America. People don't like to do that anymore. Before you spent if you had a master, chances are you spent your whole life with that one guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Develop that relationship and then the trust, and that's.
Yeah. Yeah. So he was just like, and I took his philosophy, and I teach weapons right to the beginners. If it's your first day of class, you're going to be probably a staff at some point, besides doing the other stuff, because it's true. You could use it showy, but to really learn it deep and for the art, you have to, really do it a long time.
I bet that's really interesting. So besides you teach weapons, what else at your school do you teach?
I start them out with long fist.
So it's all traditional stuff, right?
Yeah, right now it's traditional. Before we used to do a lot of contemporary stuff. So if the person is younger, I still include a lot of contemporary wushu as opposed to traditional wushu, because it's kind of when they reorganized it, the physical aspect is much more difficult. Like they really want you to jump super high. You have to have splits, things like that to do contemporary wushu. And in traditional wushu, you should also have that. But a lot of people are like, you don't need that. But I think that really, flexibility keeps you out of the nursing home. My master told me, he goes, you know what, if you're walking around, if you're in a wheelchair and you have a really good mind, you will eventually still go to the nursing home. Somebody will have to care for you. Right. But you could be crazy in the head, but still walk and be physically able to do stuff, and everybody just leaves you alone.
I like this guy.
He goes, yeah. So he's just like, so flexibility keeps you out of the nursing home. And so so I like that idea. So not that everybody should have a splits, but I make sure that all the students are trying to have a majority of time where they're trying to get flexible, because that's needed. So I really like to embrace those concepts of contemporary wushu for those reasons. Yeah.
How do you personally incorporate flexibility either into your own training or into your students' training? Do you have a protocol that you go for? Or do you just try to stretch every day?
That depends on the student, how far they are flexible, and you could tell their, for lack of a better word, their demeanor. Okay. You know what I mean? When they come in and you look at them, I can tell if they practiced or not.
Okay.
So the people that I see, you practice by yourself. So I tried to push them a little bit more, make them a little bit more flexible, because I know that that's the way they're mentally and physically geared to able to do that. So that way they're not thinking that I'm just torturing them for no reason.
Sure.
You know what I mean? They see, but too, there's different students, and as a martial artist and having a martial arts school in this time, you have to have students who are super serious, but the majority of students are serious, but they're not devoting their whole 24-hour a day to it. you know, so they're not like super crazy. And then you have some who just want to come and have a little exercise. And all three, you know, martial arts school, all three of those have value to keep the school going and to keep the art going. So, you know, so I try to see what they actually not only need, but what they're capable of. You know, even if they're super tight, but I see them really, really trying hard, I'll try to push them with their stretching a little bit, or push them with their stances, or even conditioning. You know, if they're really, I can see, oh, this guy is really, he's turning off the pain mechanism, and he just doesn't mind bothering, mind, you know, hitting an object hard, you know, a couple hundred times. So I'm going to try to help him more and give him more advice on how to be more scientific with it, as opposed to just, you know, being a brute with it, which goes a long way.
For sure. Okay. Very cool, man. Sounds awesome. How has your training evolved? Your personal training evolved over the years? You know, what was a typical training day like when you were, you know, getting ready for Johnny Cage versus now?
Yeah, that was more, I would say, when at the time before, right before, you know, I did Mortal Kombat or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I was competing more. So the training was more speed and flexibility, not so much. I wasn't embracing the, you know, we'd lift weights still, but the conditioning, the hand conditioning, like, you know, hitting the steel bag, or kicking and punching on a tree or a piece of wood for just to keep it light, because those, you know, or banging stuff on your shins to make your shins real hard, so that way you can use them to block or as a weapon. So that I didn't. Now I'm doing more of that as I got older, because I find the percussion, and they're good for my bones, so my bone density doesn't shrink. So that stuff is really good and scientifically proven to help that. So that's how it shifts. But before, I used to be more like, oh, I got to jump real high, and I got to do more of the, you know, the for the layman's term, flashy moves. Because in reality, traditional martial arts doesn't have a flashy move. You just have to understand the concept that it was built under, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And just the style of long fist has a lot of jumping, and everybody's like, oh, jumping's not, you know, you don't jump kick anybody. Well, too, you got to apply it to how they applied their martial art. They used it as a military martial art. So, you know, if you got a group of guys going in and one guy hits you, and you might be tangling with him, and a guy from behind jumps up in the air and kicks you in the back of the head, that has a lot of value. You know what I mean? And you got the weight of his body coming and hitting you on the head through your neck and breaking your neck. That's what a jump kick is actually for. It's not, I don't really jump kick the guy in front of me. I jump kick one of my partners, one of my fellow soldiers' opponent, while he's keeping him busy. So it's important then to get that speed and that jumping part. So in traditional martial arts, that they kind of teach you, like, oh, you just don't jump kick somebody because it won't work. But here's what you can do with it. And two, you begin to decipher different moves, have different applications, including even when you're jumping, you could be throwing. I think you see that a little bit in movies, how they wrap around, their legs wrap around. And that is actually a traditional idea, like 2,000 years old. So a lot of people don't realize that. They're like, oh, that's cool, it's new. No, it's not new. That's 2,000 years old. It's just nobody ever, usually guys who know this don't open up freely and tell you about this stuff.
Yeah, you're not supposed to know about it. That's why it's
that's deadly. Yeah, but like my training in the morning, wake up, do some stretching, go lift some weights, maybe do some light cardio, go and teach. And again, I have the regime. Usually, the early morning students all do internal martial arts. You know, they have their own businesses, and they kind of have their freer hours in the morning. So usually with those guys, I do either Tai Chi, Xingyi, or Bagua with them. You know, your listeners could look those up. But I usually do that. And then later on in the day, as the day progressed, they become more like, learn external styles. So they want to do more like the actual kicking and punching. They want, you know, right now in the night class, we're exploring Chou, which is it's the Chinese art of kicking. And they have like They have over 68 different kicks. Some of them are really crazy. The art was first written in Chinese history 960 AD or something crazy like that.
Wow, man.
So you know that if it's written in 960, it was around for probably a couple hundred years before that, held in secret, because all martial arts are best held in secret, so that way when you're, hey, surprise, holy crap, I'm dead.
Yeah. So yeah, you mentioned lifting weights. Do you lift weights every day?
Lately, no, but until about 3 years ago, I lifted weights every day.
So you hear there's two different schools of thought that a boxer or martial artist shouldn't lift too much weights because you can get too bulky and slow, and then there's others that think you should. Where do you fall with that balance?
I find a fallacy in shouldn't lift weights every day. You shouldn't lift weights every day if you don't have the time to stretch and keep the tendon and muscle flexible, because in the end for martial arts, flexibility and the tendon and muscle is where the power comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a power lifter or something like that, the power is different than martial arts. Not necessarily, you could be a power lifter and you're really strong, but that's a different strength than it's used to punch somebody in the head and make their head explode.
Right.
You know, there are two different powers.
Absolutely.
So you can lift weights every day, but you do have to have a strict stretching regime for it right afterwards. Otherwise it will make you tighten slower and you will not hit as hard. You'll look cool, but in the end you won't really have martial art power. You'll have, you might have power lifter power, right, but it's different. Yeah. So I would say you could do it every day, but stretch.
Yeah, always want to try to strike the balance between aesthetically looking badass, but actually performing badass too. So that's why I ask.
Yeah, and it could be done, but again, it's like, it's more difficult as you get older because you have more responsibilities. You can't show up to work late all the time.
Yeah.
When you're younger, you could show up to work late. You get, but later on when you become responsible and have a mortgage or something, you can't be doing that. You usually don't have a job or you can't eat, if you do that kind of stuff. And I like to eat.
Same. Yeah. Well, that's why I made fitness work, so I can just have time to do it all day. So,
yeah.
Fitness and martial arts. But yeah. So I have to tell you, the reason why my nerd self got into fitness is because I wanted to look like Sub-Zero. Or
cool.
I just, I grew up playing Mortal Kombat, and I was like, this is just so badass. This dude's so jacked, but can also flip, and I wanted to do that stuff. So literally it was my inspiration. If it wasn't for Mortal Kombat, if it wasn't for you playing these characters, I would not be who I am today, man. So I really thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, it's cool to hear that. I never get tired of the stories of people playing the game, or it was a different era when that came out. Now it's you have future generations, but being a little bit hanging out with the people who usually run a podcast now or have a channel, they're all, oh man, we used to play Mortal Kombat with my brother or something like that. It was face to face. It was more mano to mano as opposed to virtual. Yeah, it was cool times.
Yeah, man, my dad was super cool. I had Mortal Kombat 2 was my first video game ever. So
wow,
I played it.
You got lucky.
I was entirely too young to play it, but it obviously had no effect on me in any way. But
negative effect. Yeah,
no negative effect at all. It was great. It was awesome, man. And I know I've looked up a lot of what you guys brought into the first Mortal Kombat. That was if I'm not mistaken, basically just kind of like a labor of love. You were helping your friends out make the game, right?
Yeah. It was John was I hung out with John sometimes going to arcades or going to the movies, watching those nerdy movies back then.
Yeah.
Kung Fu movies. We would go watch Kung Fu movies, or he was an artist, and my brother is a graphic artist now. But they always used to draw together. Spend time where they're sitting at a kitchen table and just drawing and working on things, kind of going over ideas. But that's originally how I got into the game. People are like, how did you how did you try out for the game? And it was like, it wasn't basically a tryout. I was just doing a friend a favor, you know. And two, he realized that going into the game, he was like, you know, dude, whatever you want to put in the game, I will put in the game. You know, I can't pay you a lot. So any ideas you have, we'll make them real. We're going to do 200 arcade cabinets, and it's going to, you know, we'll see where this goes.
And then it exploded, obviously, but
yeah,
we're not anticipating that, I assume.
No. Again, because I was when we were first talking, after we pitched the idea to, we put together a package and pitched the idea to Midway. And one of the guys who came for a second meeting representing Midway was Ed.
Okay.
So I asked Ed if we could make 201 arcade cabinets because I wanted to keep one.
Sure.
And then Ed is like, no, I promise you we're only going to make 200 because you know how much they're $5,000-$6,000 each game. He goes, we're only going to do 200 games. It's going to be a small game. So there's no way we can do that. And then, you know, and John was like, you're still on board. And, you know, I was like, yeah, I can still do it. He goes, we could still do, you know, one of the things that I requested was John had these characters, had this character ninja, a Japanese ninja. And I told John, well, if you want me to do the game, we have to change the Japanese ninja into the Chinese Lin Kuei. And so I told him all about the Lin Kuei and how, you know, I had the book and it kind of showed him how they dress differently than the Japanese ninja. The Chinese ninja dress differently. And John was like, okay, we'll put that in the game. And it wound up to be.
Yeah, man, that's
yeah.
so awesome. I was listening to an interview with you, and you had brought that up, that I actually had that written down as a question. I had no idea that they were real. I always thought it was Mortal Kombat like myth lore. You know, I never knew that they were a real thing.
Actually, they weren't. Somebody told me later on that it wasn't real, but we took I took the idea. I bought a book in a martial arts school store. So somebody else made that myth up.
Okay.
But the Chinese armor for during that period did look like, but naturally it wasn't yellow or blue because, you know, you could see yellow or blue coming. It was dark. It more looked like what Noob Saibot looks like, basically.
Awesome.
Is what the traditional Lin Kuei character looked like. But yeah, it's like, you know, I was like, man, nobody's ever done this. This will be the first time that somebody hears about this. This is going to make our game unique. And we were always talking about trying to make it unique because there wasn't going to be a lot, but we wanted to make it really as cool as possible.
So how did that headspace change for you from going into Mortal Kombat 2? Were you already aware that it was going to be bigger, or you just wanted to continue what you did on the first one? It seems like you had a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was like for number 2, we finally got its budget. Like, you know, in number 1, we videoed, you know, what people are playing is actually like really controlling the actors. So when you're playing Mortal Kombat, you're really controlling me. They took live frames, and John did add what they call a digitized look to it, but they're real people. Mm-hmm. So originally we wanted to have the game look kind of like Dragon Slayer.
Okay. Yeah.
But that was done on a CD-ROM, and naturally this game was not going to be on a CD-ROM, so it didn't, you know, wind up looking like that. And, you know, it was adapted and grew over time. But for the second game, it was just, you know, we finally got a better camera, digital camera. You know, we shot with John's dad's high 8 camera for the first one. Yeah. So the company bought like and 2, the first day of filming, when John and I filmed test filming, because John and I spent about 5 days creating a pathway to the game, which you know, we would record for the day and then we would tape over it, because we were like, oh, we're not going to use this footage. We're trying to get a feel of what techniques we're going to use and stuff like that. So we've spent 5 days of actually the creation of MK, which people will never see because we erased it.
Oh no.
Yeah, but with the second game, it was all digitized. They had a studio. As I was saying, you know, the first day of filming, John, Ed, and I spent about 2 hours cleaning out a space for us to film before, you know, then, you know, Ed let John and I, you know, up to our shenanigans of trying to create a pathway to the game, because we really didn't have any idea of what was going to be in this game.
The Okay, so you really didn't know going in.
No, John, first day, I was like, okay, what were we going to do? He goes, here's my shot list. John, and two, I knew John, so he goofed around and he showed me a shot list: high, medium, low.
Yeah. Yeah. You
And
just
then he looked at
thanks.
me, and then he was talking to a monkey. He looked at me and he's like, okay, go do something cool. And
Wow.
so,
That's
we started the camera and I just started shooting martial art moves, single moves, doing moves. We take a look at it in the camera, we talk a little bit, and then we go and do things. And we spent 5 days, 8 hours a day doing that.
that's insane, man. That's hard work.
Yeah, but really fun, because
Yeah.
in the end, again, John really, he's really the creator of Mortal Kombat. I know, Ed and I get credit for it, Ed more than I, but in reality, John is the one who thought of it. Originally when we pitched the game to Ed didn't think it was a good idea.
Yeah.
So originally, even though he created a lot of people, he created and helped create it, and is one of the creators. But originally, when he heard the idea, he thought it would be better if we went with a different idea.
Interesting.
Yeah. So again, during the second one, we had so many ideas in the first one that we were like, oh, cool, we're going to be able to put some of the ideas in the second one. Like originally we wanted the X-rays, we wanted tag teams, we wanted every character to have 3 fatalities. We wanted we only wanted 1 Lin Kuei. We wanted a different character. So there was a lot of different ideas that were like, we had for the first game that didn't come to fruition that we started to put in the second game.
Okay. Did you bring a unique fighting style to each character that you did?
I was on set for every character, and that was my job, because we were all friends. Like all the guys who did Mortal Kombat hung out together, at least the main group hung out together before Mortal Kombat, way before Mortal Kombat. Like, like Hosung, Kung Lao, and Liu Kang, and Kano. I knew those guys since like 88 or something crazy
So
like
awesome,
that.
awesome.
86 or something crazy like that. So we were training for a long time. So my thing was to make sure that each character was just a little bit different. Everything was just a little bit different. And I was just like, okay, we got, and then I was around and I could tell, okay, I already did that move. Or, okay, Carlos already did that move. Rich already did that move. You can't do it exactly like that. We got to change it. Oh, we can't do that move because we already shot that at the beginning and realized because of the 2D effect of filming on a camera will make that technique look exactly like this other technique, because it doesn't have the 3D and it can't pick up the nuances. So I was like, oh, we can't do that. Try this, do this. Oh, I'm going to help you do this. So that's really my job.
So you just did a bunch of different stuff for each one, or did you go in like, okay, this is Reptile's stance, this is Reptile's moves versus, okay, I'm Scorpion now, so my stance is different or whatever, or was it just a kind of a combination?
No, we did each one. At that point, they were all originally all those guys are from the same clan. So Scorpion and Sub-Zero is our brothers.
Yeah.
Or is the original concept. Now they're, and the rivalry was for a different reason. But so being brothers, I was like, being Kung Fu brothers, that means they're different, but they have the basics are kind of the same.
Sure.
So we have to have, the fighting stance has to be kind of like, but not quite. And so John was like, that's good. He goes, can you do 4 or 5? So for the first one, I already did probably enough techniques originally for like 4 Lin Kuei, 4 ninjas.
Wow.
Just in case they had time to throw in some more characters or that, so when we did
it in the bank already.
Yeah. So I did, I had to have some old pictures of me doing, I was like, oh, take a picture of this stance, because it was like for different, I have one that looks exactly like reptiles fighting stance, and then I have 2 more that don't look like any characters that ever came out because they never manifested. We never got a chance to put those in.
Did you have a different costume for each character? Like you had a noob Cybot, a smoke, a reptile?
No, they were way too. We didn't have a budget for that. You know, Johnny Cage's costume was owned by me. I pulled it out of my closet.
Really?
Yeah. So different things, parts were different people's. You know, I know like for Raiden, the garb on the braces on the bottom are actually what Carlos used to put on to breakdance because he liked to breakdance.
Nice.
So he would, instead of rolling up his pants, he would pull these Band-Aids on the bottom of his legs to keep him from tripping over his pants when he breakdanced. So he added that to Raiden's costume. So when you look at the old #1 Raiden and you see those bands, think breakdancing, you know. So yeah, so each person kind of added different things to their own characters. You know, too, John was pretty cool because there was no, you got to act however you wanted to. So the actors from Mortal Kombat 1 and 2 made those personalities out of the blue, from themselves.
Man, that's what I was going to say, man. That's what makes the original Mortal Kombat game so special. I mean, it's you injected your personality, the sense of humor, everything. Like I don't want to talk smack on the new games, but they just don't do it for me because they don't have that magic that those first few games have. And I think that's largely because of, what you just said.
Yeah. Tony Kung Lao always says personality in the pixels. He goes, when you have one guy shooting the whole character, all of a sudden the personality is kind of like a photographer. You know, you have those supermodels who when they're walking down the street, they look ordinary, but you put them in front of the camera and a little makeup and you're like, oh, whoa, you know.
Sure.
So they have some kind of voodoo between themselves and the camera that all of a sudden, when you look at it, all of a sudden you feel that vibration. You know, there's something special in this. So, Tony always describes it like that. He's like, yeah, when we were doing the characters, we were always just that character, and every move was that character. They weren't like a generic, oh, you're going to do a kick and then we're going to put that kick for everyone. No, you were doing that kick specifically for that personality and shaping it kind of.
It's so weird how you can feel that, from the video game. Like you can definitely, it has that like warmth, that energy to it. Like, you can tell you're Johnny Cage when you're Johnny Cage, you love being Johnny Cage, on Mortal Kombat 2, when you went and you put on the glasses and do like the kiss like that. To this day, that's still so awesome. Like that's so
Thanks.
cool,
Yeah. It's fun. Like I said, it was fun.
And now I feel like Johnny Cage is like a douchebag, like
I think that, well, too, because in the end, they made me promises, they didn't fulfill them, and then I made a big ruckus over it, and I think they changed Johnny Cage personally to kind of insult me a little bit. Got rid of him they got rid of him in the third game, which failed.
And so Scorpion, right?
They got rid of Scorpion and Sub-Zero too, because those are characters heavily created, co-created, collaborated, whatever they want to call it. They couldn't have those characters because it was my main idea. But and then they came back with a what did they call it? Trilogy, or they came back with Mortal Kombat. Yeah, they had a trilogy. They had one more, right? Supreme or something like that. Ultimate. Yeah, where they were like, oh, we tried to do it without what, just only what you helped create on this part, but not the whole thing, and it kind of failed, and we had to bring it back. So at least that's how I feel, and I like to think, that they came back and we're like, oh, we need those characters.
Yeah, absolutely. You need what you made them. They're you. It's what you did to them that make them special today. Is there any chance that you will be involved in anything in the future with Mortal Kombat?
I won't say never, because never say never. But sure. But the way things are right now, chances are slim. As probably the majority of MK fans know, Ed and I don't get along, just because Ed worked hard on the game. He did, but he was also the boss was our boss of MK.
Okay.
You know, even though John was the main creator of MK, Ed was the boss. And I think in the end, he didn't really, you know, they said I would get this bonus, you know, for helping coming up with these ideas and helping him with the game. You know, John put me on the side of the first game because of all the help I did for him. And they were like, oh yeah, we're going to give you a bonus. And in the end, I didn't get anything. I didn't even get recognition, you know, until now, people didn't know that I was the main creator of Scorpion and Sub-Zero.
Well,
It
I'm
just,
trying to
yeah.
help facilitate that, man. I'm trying
Thank
to
you.
get out there
Yeah.
with stuff like this, man.
Yeah. So that being said, you know,
I
and,
get it. Yeah.
you know, there's some mistrust, harshness, and two, you know, I have a big mouth and, you know, I might have offended Ed and he has a right to be mad at me for that reason. But, you know, unless myself, John, Carlos, and Rich, who were there originally for the pitch to Midway, all get together at a table with some kind of some guy from keeping us from ripping each other's throats out.
From fatalities.
Yeah, come and just air out everybody's grievances. I don't think anything that would happen. You know.
All right. Well, in a perfect world, what would you do differently to the game? You know, if you were involved in the new games, or if you're in the new movies, even. I know they're making a new movie. They're really expanding the universe now for the modern generation. If you were involved in any way or could be, what would you do differently?
I had some ideas that I'm going to, because I'm going to try to explore doing a retro fighting game. So I had some ideas for MK3 to change it a little bit because, you know, MK1, you see a difference when you go from MK1 to 2, but then all of a sudden it starts taking on a more, not to offend anybody, more cookie cutter approach. You know, the characters kind of look the same. They might have a different fatality, but they all kind of look the same and do the same moves. You know what I mean? It's
personality definitely gets lost after 2, in my
opinion. Yeah. So I had like some ideas of what I could do. So hopefully, when this virus slows down a little bit, I get the opportunity. I've been talking to some people about maybe coming out with a retro fighting game, and then you can kind of see where those ideas come out. So I don't want to really say that.
Yeah, don't say anything. That's all good, man.
Yeah. And as far as the movies, as long as, you know, originally I always thought when we, you know, I met with Kavanaugh, the producer of MK, and we wanted to really make it dark. And I think he didn't make it dark because, you know, he could get, you know, if he goes PG-13, kids, you know, he could make more money. But originally I thought that the Mortal Kombat, because we did have fatality and blood, I thought that should be in the movie. I thought it should be a little bit more darker. You know, I like the dark Batman. I like Superman and his fallacies. I like that type of thing is real. And I think that it looks like the new movie has that. And I like that idea.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I agree. Obviously, I mean, yeah, I'm in the horror. That's our whole thing, fitness for the misfits. So I'm all into the dark part of the, that's why I like Mortal Kombat 2, just because it's a little bit darker than the first one. And I think they could have cultivated that a little better in the films, personally.
Yeah, so do I. But, you know, they have the rights and it's their baby. They could do whatever they want. But I think
I
the
would
fans
ask
would
you
like
to
that.
be the fight coordinator if I was in charge on the new movies.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
That would be, would that be something you would do?
Oh, yeah, heck yeah. I would, you know, I'm flexible enough to do it. No, I've been studying martial arts long enough to have, to be able to insert some unique ideas.
I bet, yeah. Are you a fan of the John Wick movies?
Actually, I really enjoyed 1 and 2 somewhat, but the third one I saw, and I thought the fight scenes were okay, but I thought they were just magnified from the first one.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
So I really enjoyed it, and he did good work. They did good work, but I think they could have. I don't know if they could have went in a little bit different direction with the fight scenes away from, you know. But it's hard too because, you know, I'm a big Star Wars fan,
Sure.
and I like all the Star Wars movies, even the bad ones, because I'm a Star Wars fan. Sure. But I'm also a Star Trek fan. But I don't want Star Trek to get crossed up in Star Wars. Right. So the John Wick movies too could be like, oh, this is who John Wick is. So you can't change things too much because now you're no longer John Wick.
Mm-hmm.
So this is his style. This is the way he fights, but I do enjoy him. And heck, I will pay money to go see the fourth one.
Yes, awesome. Yeah, I only ask is that I think his last name Chad. I'm gonna butcher his last name. I think Liskinsky. Chad Stalinsky is the director, fight coordinator. He did The Matrix, and he was in like Bloodsport back in the day. That dude's like deep rooted in martial arts, and I think the story for the John Wick movies goes he kind of took all the technique he learned over the years and working on films and games and stuff like that, and just kind of saved like all the cool shit, and then just made his own thing with John Wick. And like I could totally see you doing something like that. Is why I bring it up.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So just a few more questions for you, brother. I'm just interested in what is your personal favorite Mortal Kombat character and fatality, whether you perform them or not?
My favorite character is Johnny Cage, not only because it looked like me, but he was the father of all the Mortal Kombat characters. He was the first character we created.
Okay.
He mapped out all the moves. Most of the techniques you see in there, or the way the direction of the game went, was thanks to. He didn't have a name, but that at the time it's Johnny Cage. Yeah, Johnny Cage character. And my favorite fatality, naturally I created too, is Sonia's Kiss of Death. I really.
You created that?
That's So I thought it was kind of unique to kind of use that femme fatale kind of movement in the game. So that is my favorite fatality.
What was because those pictures are you basically, right? Then we Mortal Kombat 2 and stuff. They're those guys look Scorpion, Sub-Zero, all jacked and ripped and stuff. What was your typical training day like in those days of making Mortal Kombat? How hard were you hitting the weights, and what was your diet like, and all that stuff?
Hard training was hard. I'd get up at like 4, go be at the gym at 4:30, depending on the day. Lift first, a lot of running.
Okay.
Mortal Kombat 2, I think I was running at least 10 miles every other day with you know what I mean? 3 to 4 days a week.
Wow.
Trying to keep, just trying to keep lean muscle, heavy, lifting a lot. At one time, I think, during Mortal Kombat 2, I could squat. I was 160 pounds, and I could free weight squat 505 pounds twice to the floor.
Oh man.
All full squat, all the way. My butt was literally 2 or 3 inches from the floor.
I got a lot more training to do.
But I wouldn't recommend it for everyone. About 3 years ago, I had a knee replacement. That probably helped a lot, even though that doesn't kind of slow me down. But you pay a price for all that stuff.
Legacy's worth it. You take the knee replacement, brother. That's badass.
I don't regret it, because I don't, hardly know anybody who's like, oh, I hear people, oh, I could squat 300 pounds, or and then I think, well, add 205 pounds and lose 30 pounds, and then you did what I could do.
That's insane.
Yeah,
that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So weights hard, running 10 miles every other day, weights hard every day, every other day, and then filming.
And then practicing, and then going to film Mortal Kombat, and then practicing again at night.
Where did the flexibility fall in? All that just all throughout the day, or
stretching? Every time I lift, I got to stretch. So after every exercise period, I would stretch. So that's why, in the end, you see me do splits, because I could do the splits. All the way around.
Can you still do the Johnny Cage split nut punch?
If I warm up, yeah.
If you had to, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. I now a little older, a little wiser. I warm up. Before, I was like just dropping into it. I did that first game. I think I did the splits like 50 times. The first few times was really difficult, because it was on concrete, and then if you look at the making of, you'll see Ed spreading some powder. That's actually baby powder from my rope dart. I used to work the Scorpion's weapon is the rope dart.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they changed it to the kunai, which is used for climbing and digging. It's not really a weapon how people think they use it. But anyway, so I had that weapon, and so I was like, oh, if you take powder in the floor, it's going to make it slippery. I'll be able to do the split like more times, because otherwise I'm going to just doing the split. So we did the split like 50 times, like 10 different ways.
That's insane. What is some of your training advice? I'm me personally, I'm like really close to getting the splits, and I just can't take it to that extra point that I need to do it. I work on it all the time. What should I be doing, Master Pesina?
If you really want the splits, it's a little painful or uncomfortable, but hold like it is. Get into the split and then lift your hands up and hold them up for 10 to 30 seconds.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just try that isometric stretching will really do that.
Contract
if you
quads.
contract the quads too, it'll give you strength with your kick. So
Okay.
that way, like if you see a dancer throw a kick, that, even though it hurt you, it wouldn't really take you out.
Okay.
But if you practice this way, when you kick somebody in the face, it's gonna, they're gonna really feel it.
It builds that isometric strength in the muscle fibers, right?
Yeah, it sure does, and you'll be able to do splits.
Thank you. I'll send you progress. I'm gonna do it. Yeah. Nice, man.
Yeah.
What was the diet like in the Mortal Kombat days?
Crap.
Was it nice?
Yeah.
I kind of figured, man. I didn't want to say, but that's if working out that hard, you can probably get away with eating.
Yeah, you get it. I recall that I can. I'm a big pizza lover, even today, and I could eat a large pizza and a 6-pack of beer and not gain a single ounce, because it was just, when I got up for that 10-mile run, it would be burned right off.
It probably helped fuel it, man. I mean,
you're just
every other day.
Anything. Yeah, you're just throwing everything in. You could eat whatever you want, But again, it's not recommended because you will have consequences later on in life. But at the time, I enjoyed it, and for that, at one time when I weighed in for an event, some guy was like, "Hey, can I take your body fat?" And I think I tested under 4% body fat, so it was like really, really crazy. I was just like, yes, I was pretty solid.
Yeah, you're bringing in that scorpion hellfire levels of fat burning.
So
what's the diet like today versus then?
The diet like today is still about the same, just not as much.
I
just if somebody approached me and said, "Hey, you got to lose weight for this," okay, I will do that. If there's a project and I got to lose weight, I will lose weight, but I don't want to lose weight just for vanity anymore. I just want to, because I practice martial arts, and it gives you a confidence. I don't need to look badass when you are badass. So that's
you feel like you can perform at a very high level eating pizza versus eating salad and chicken.
As far as combat, naturally, if you want to do a performance, if I'm going to be in a movie, then you have to lose weight, because that's just a different. You're not really doing combat. You're doing a performance. You got to look the part. You got to be able to do everything.
But just getting up and training and doing your thing, that's good fuel for you. You feel good. That's what you need. That's awesome. All right.
Yeah, that's my path.
So deep dish pizza, or East Coast style New York pizza.
I do not discriminate. Even bad pizza is okay.
Yeah.
If it's bad, I will still eat it all. I'll just complain about it a little bit. So so for me, pizza is pretty. The only thing I don't like is anchovies and pineapple. No anchovies or pineapple on it.
I'm with you, man. We agree on a lot. This is good.
Great minds.
Sure, man. Where's the best pizza in Chicago, in your opinion?
The best pizza in Chicago.
I love Chicago.
Pequod's. Yeah, Pequod's? I would say Pequod's Pizza is the best pizza in Chicago.
Been there a few times. It's great.
Yeah, but the best pizza I've ever had was in Argentina.
No way. All right.
Yeah, dude. Oh, you got to go. And not even one place. Like because I'm such a pizza lover, I think I was there for 10 days, and I had a slice of pizza from a different place every day, and it was I couldn't get a bad piece. And I couldn't get a could not. Every piece was legendary. It was like, holy cow! This is like, if I had enough money to retire right now, I'd move to Argentina just to feed on pizza all day long.
That's fascinating. That's great to know. Hey, next time I'm in Argentina, pizza all day.
Yeah.
Have you ever had pizza in Pittsburgh?
I had pizza in Pittsburgh. Man, I don't know the name of the place.
Well, hey, next time you're in Pittsburgh, let me know.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get you good places.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. And next time I'm in Chicago,
test my might. Yeah, test my might. Next time you're in Chicago, we'll go to hit Pequod's.
That'd be awesome, and I would love to I would love to stop by your school and get a training session in, man. That would be a huge honor.
Yeah, you're welcome. Just get over here.